Hey everyone, I wanted to follow up my presentation on Adobe Target Recommendations for content to do a little bit of a deep dive on how to actually set up the content within Adobe Target so that you can use it within personalization activities. And I wanted to show an example from my own personal website, albertacg.com, where I have set up a feed of my blog posts, and then I'm sending it into Target. As you can see here, this is sort of the list of current posts, and then I'm using it for recommendations activities. So we're in the recommendations section of Adobe Target right now. You can see that there are images from my blog here, the header images, the ID of each post, the name with the URL, category of each post, and if I scroll down, you can see there's a few empty categories that I'm not sending in, which is totally fine. Still works without those pieces. And then there are the page URLs, thumbnails, values, all those good things are within this feed. So I'm going to quickly go over how I set this up, and hopefully this gives you a good idea about how you could do this on your own site using Adobe Target Recommendations. So let's dive in a little bit. So first off, I'm just going to go over here. So this is kind of what the initial feed looks like. You can see that I have all sort of the main information from my site within this feed. This is the template that Target gives you, which I'll just quickly show. If we go over here to feeds, right here, that's feeds. You can see that I have this one feed set up, but if you were to go create feed, this download right here would be where you would get the template for what I'm using within this spreadsheet. So it's basically a CSV with the information. I use WordPress for my website. I got all the information from the WordPress API to put into this format, and saved it that way. But that's not all we did. So let's talk about the setup on the website. So I am using Adobe Tags, formerly Adobe Launch, as my tag manager on my website. And I have two important extensions deployed through there. The first one is the Adobe Experience Platform Web SDK. This is the new sort of library that contains, it's the library for Target, but also for all the other tools you're going to need, such as analytics, but it allows you to get your data in a place for streaming and then put it into those specific tools and into Adobe Experience Platform, all those other good things. And then I have the Adobe Client data layer, and this is utilized to basically collect the data from the website and then push it for use within the Adobe Web SDK as well for streaming data. So I'm just going to give you an example of how I have that set up. On my website, like I mentioned, I'm in a WordPress website, and I have set up this custom data layer plugin with some simple JavaScript. And this plugin is set up for me to send data, page data, into the Adobe Client data layer, but also I've now modified it so that it sends the entity information for Adobe Target to see, and also update the feed. And I'll quickly show you that. And just to go back, to mention what entity is, if we look at the Adobe Target feed, and I'll just kind of zoom in so it's not so small. But if we look here, we will see entity.name, entity.category ID. These are two of the really important ones you want to see. Entity are basically the information that we're sending to Target so that it knows what is coming through. We're keying off this ID, so entity.id is sort of the main piece that is very important that you need to have within all your feeds. Right now, it's my blog post ID as the ID. So entity.name, entity category, these are what we need to create the feed. And as I mentioned, the plugin is sending the entity ID. So I'll just quickly show you. This is the JavaScript file for that plugin. I'm going to open it up just a little bit here. You can see that we are sending a data layer push on when the event is a blog post load. I also have other pages like standard pages and then non-blog post pages. But with every blog post page load, I am sending in information about that post in terms of like author categories, page ID, URLs, things like that. That's already being sent in. But then you can see underneath here, I am sending an event with the entities. So I have entity ID, entity name, entity category, thumbnail, page URL, and tags. So that's all coming through, and it's using an Alloy send event to send this basically when there is a blog post page. And I'll show you what that looks like here. Just gonna move my head out of the way. But you can see right here, this is how it shows up. So I've gone to one of the blog posts, and I can see that the entities are coming through. You can see entity ID there, blog post 6062. The category ID is Adobe Target, what the name, the title of the blog post is, the page URL, entity tags. So you can see here Adobe Target, optimization, personalization, recommendation, and the thumbnail. So the URL of the thumbnail for this image. And that all feeds back to the feed, which is, sorry, let me find it again, right here. And I will look, so that's all the things that are being sent into here. Sorry, it's just loading. There we go. And I believe, let me just see if I can find here how to drive personalized content. That's the blog post we were looking at, which was this one here. And you can see that the information is now within the feed here. So once you have the feed set up from that initial CSV, and then when you're sending the entity IDs from the blog post to Target, this automatically gets updated. So you don't have to continuously update the CSV feed. You definitely can. You can add more information to the CSV if you need to. But once you have the entities being set on the page, Adobe Target is seeing that information and then updating the feed with this information that's coming through. So this came through from there, and you can see it's all ready to go to be used. The other advantage is once these are set, this is also pushing the entity information into the user profile. So now we know that this user has seen this content within the profile. And now this is how we now can drive some personalized content. So basically we've seen that this user has seen how to drive personalized content with Adobe Target Recommendations. We can now feed that user a more personalized experience when we're trying to recommend content, such as, people who viewed this article also viewed that. Or if you're interested in these categories, this is Adobe Target. Here's some more articles specifically about Adobe Target. And that is basically how this feed is set up. So I hope this was helpful and useful for you. If you have any questions about this initial setup, please reach out to me and let me know if I can help your team with this initial setup. But in our next video, I'll kind of talk about, now that we have a feed set up, how do we go about utilizing the criteria, the designs, the catalog, and putting that into an activity and actually start to use it for personalized experiences across the website. So we covered today how to set up a feed, how to set up the CSV, using the Adobe Tags with Web SDK and Adobe Client Data Layer to push data to the data layer and to Target and into the user profile for personalization. And hopefully that clears up that piece, and we'll talk a little bit more about other setups in my next video. So thanks again for tuning in and listening to this. And if you have any questions, please reach out, but we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much.